Hello, my friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah Babbins, and this is another behind-the-scenes Toronto Magic Company episode. Myself and Ben Train, we not only run the Toronto Magic Company, but we're also roommates, and we're up to a whole bunch of crazy shenanigans. So we talk about all of it. We talk about virtual magic, where it is now and where it's potentially going. We talk about the unconventional .fun convention, and specifically we talk about kind of the next few, the unconventional pass, how you can get involved and how you can be a part of our next couple of conventions. And we talk about YouTube, which is really exciting. Ben and I have entered the YouTube game. We're kind of uploading a new video every week, and it's been a ton of fun. We're learning a lot and we're sharing a lot too. So decided to go behind the scenes. Would love to know what you think of episodes like these. But until then, here is a behind the scenes episode with Ben and I talking about the Toronto Magic Company. Hello, friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah Babbins, and this is another one of those Toronto Magic Company episodes. I'm here with
Toronto Magic Company episodes.
I'm here with Ben Train. If you know or if you don't, we started the Toronto Magic Company maybe 5 years ago, and I guess 2 or 3 months ago, we started sharing our trials and tribulations here on the podcast. In the last episode, we put out an episode called Failures, talking about, well, we did a whole bunch of different things in 2020. And we talked about some of the epic failures that we did. And I thought that this was another good time.
In some cases that we didn't.
That's true, that we didn't do.
Yeah,
some things that we really failed. But this is, again, kind of once a month, we're going to check in, kind of go behind the scenes, share what's going on with the Toronto Magic Company. Right now, we're running a fully virtual business from our house. We are posting on YouTube. We're running virtual events, both for magicians and for the public, and we're doing private virtual magic shows. So there's definitely plenty to talk about.
Absolutely. Where do we dive into? Where do you want to get into first?
Well, I have a few kind of big notes here, but I do kind of want to keep you on your toes.
Now, I was going to say, it's important we preface this to say that we haven't prepared any of this.
No, nothing.
I do not know the subject matter of this interview or conversation.
Yeah.
So if I say anything stupid, it's because I didn't have time to think about it, okay? Or because I'm me.
So let's start. Let's say that there have been different segments or sections to this pandemic. There was the first section, which was a lot of panic and worry. And then there was the second section with maybe a little bit of prosperity. And then, maybe there was times where we were maybe overworked. There are these different sections in time, and I don't want to maybe go through all of them, but it definitely feels like the last.
There were waves, certainly waves.
Exactly.
Shifts,
different waves of working.
Panic, optimism, opportunity.
Yeah, creativity and just different things that are happening.
Those were the three waves I saw. Panic, optimism, and then opportunities, because that's when we had the gigs And then there's some creativity. And now I think we're kind of either in or entering or maybe past, depending on where you are in the world and listening to this, in like another segment, which maybe has a little to do with the longevity of how things have been working, maybe has a little bit to do with how things are changing. It has to do with, we're all struggling to plan for 8 months into the future, everybody on the planet right now. So talk to me about how you felt over the last, what we would call the last little segment, or this segment one I would
right
call
now.
the plateau. This is where, some of the initial excitement of new opportunities has sort of worn off. Mm-hmm. Everything felt new and exciting. It was like a new partner or a new puppy or a new house. And you were trying all these new types of shows and new mediums and new ways to market. And we've had some success with it. Now we're seeing a little bit of a downturn, which I think is normal because the holiday season just ended and sort of we're in a little bit of a lull, but also...
And by the way, it doesn't seem like gigs are going down yet. Really, it doesn't seem like there's... if you're feeling a lull, it was a lull from 2 months ago that you're feeling now, right? In looking at the next 2 months, we're very busy. Over the next 2 months, we are quite busy. Not December busy.
Yeah, and maybe that's just the feeling of sort of the excitement wearing off, where I don't feel the same way about those virtual shows where I've been saying for months now that one of the exciting things about a 30-minute virtual show is that it's actually 30 minutes. It's maybe 35 or 40 minutes, but there isn't all the driving and other stuff associated with it. And maybe now I'm actually starting to feel that way because
we're gigging again.
Yeah, and also I I don't have that same level of excitement or nerves throughout the day that I once had, where I was so pumped about another show. It's like, okay, we've done hundreds.
That being said, I still really do love them.
I definitely
I don't feel any different about my joy for virtual magic shows.
When we fall into a rut of, and it's one of the reasons I keep saying, and you keep saying to me, like, I'm going to do something. What do we keep saying?
I don't know what you're talking about yet.
Knock you to throw you a loop.
Throw you a loop.
I'm going to throw you a loop, or sometimes we'll say, like, you know what? We're changing the order of some tricks.
Just to preface, we're a duo act, and virtual has been the only year that we've both ever been a duo act. And I think we both have amazing, solo tendencies that creep in and some bad ones. And one of the bad ones that both of us do a lot of the times is like, and I guess lots of magicians do this, is our stale lines stay there that aren't getting any laughs, but we just do them. And it's especially difficult to remove them because it's two people relying on each other. So recently we've been, especially with shows that are like maybe for a small family or something else like that, we've been saying to each other that like, I'm going to throw you for a loop just because some of the things are like, kind of even stale for us. Maybe they're not even stale for them, but they're just stale for us. And if we're doing like 7 of them over 4 days, like last week we had like 7 shows over 4 days, and like we just changed up a trick to now I do it with a stuffed animal that we didn't do it before.
Very mature.
But we just did it, right? Because we had 4 shows and we just said, let's just do something different.
And I think it's the same trap that anybody falls into if they do something repetitively, and that is it becomes sort of monotonous. It stops feeling special, and if it becomes almost muscle memory, you can mentally check out. Mm-hmm. And one of the things with these virtual shows is sometimes you only have a small group of people that turn on their cameras, or maybe you have a large group but they're all muted, and it is easy to get into like autopilot mode.
You know what? It's funny you say that. I think about pre-pandemic, we would talk about after a weekend where there was a lot of shows or whatever, we would talk about like being an autopilot, and how much we would take for granted that version of autopilot where absolutely. There were actual human beings looking at us in an audience, where now, we could have a group with 12 people and 9 of them could choose not to turn on their camera.
Absolutely.
And 2 of them are families. And like that autopilot kind of makes sense. There's no one that's even looking back into us. We're staring at a wall, but like, we still need to not be an autopilot.
Absolutely. And we've done events before where, we were surprised where people were like, oh, we're all watching from work. And we're like, well, that makes sense. It's a work function. They're like, yeah, but we don't have cameras on at work.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, right. Because all their cameras are blocked for work.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to have things become monotonous. And once it stops feeling special and fun, it feels like work, which, to be honest, is sort of why I do magic, so I don't have to do things that feel repetitive and work. Like, my dad is great at what he does because he does it a million times. He's a dentist. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do the same thing. Right. Like, I want to perform and be good at performing, but I also I want to change up the material. And so... Yeah, so I think
those slowly, shows. I feel like we are, especially, and we'll talk about it in a bit, the Tarbell Challenge. But we're doing some different stuff to play with unique material, and that's been kind of fun.
Yeah,
and I think
that is exciting, and that is fun.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of the way. I know this is obvious to everybody, or maybe not. But the way to keep it fresh, aside from the fact that you're doing the same thing 99 times, in however long, the thing that keeps it fresh is not just changing up one joke or a line or throwing each other for a loop. Is like, okay, now we're going to try to, add in this whole new trick.
It's so easy to talk about adding material to the show because pretty much I'm sure anybody listening this far into this podcast has lots and lots of magic material on their bookshelves and video. And it's so weird to me and to you. And I think that it's weird to me, at least, that we don't put more material into our shows.
I agree with you.
Because it's not like our material is so great that it's impossible to remove. We're constantly talking about let's cut this trick and add something new in. And we're working on developing that material. But it is tricky. So it's tricky. Finding ways to do that and forcing yourself to do that is important because, that's what I'm struggling with right now is that the shine of this being new and fun and exciting is starting to wear off a little bit. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, another video for YouTube or another virtual show. So keeping them fresh is important.
Mm-hmm. So on that note, I'd love to talk about, and we'll talk about the maybe virtual downturn in a minute, but I'd love to talk about YouTube. We have stepped on YouTube, and YouTube has been kind of one of these things that, in the back of my head, personally, it's something that I've regretted because with the podcast, the way I think about it is podcasts are not viralable, not shareable. No one's ever said, hey, like, just think about the way videos are shared versus the way podcasts are shared, or even articles are shared. It's a no-brainer. It's hard you still have to be like, go to your phone, download this purple app, like do this thing. So when I look back, I think about Discourse of Magic, and I'm like, had I done absolutely every single thing that I did, but did it as a video for the last 5 years, it would be at least 5 times the size, twice the size to be conservative. Right? Just because so many people are like, I don't care about podcasts. But had they known that I was sitting down to have an interview with Tamariz or Teller or, just so stupid. And now I don't want to change it, because now I think it is a podcast that stands out in its field, for what it is. But, I learned that lesson. And it's one of those little things that that has hurt me, because the real reason why I learned that lesson is because I was too afraid to be on camera. And I still don't love it. Yeah. I'm getting better at it. Virtual got me better at it, but I don't love it. And it's really exciting. I know it's a little bit of a little bit of background, but it's really exciting to now be doing YouTube, and not only have the both of us to do it creatively, which is a huge godsend, but also have a team to help us produce things. And, we have people that work with us full time, but also we have local people who are willing to try unique things and do special things for us. So like, on one hand, not doing YouTube 5 years ago is one of those things, I regret. But on the other hand, it's really exciting to be able to do them now and put out different things on YouTube every week that is fun Magic content. So I'm pumped to be making fun Magic content on YouTube.
Yeah, me too. Again, I got into doing Magic and performing because it was fun and I enjoyed the experience. And I think one of the things I love about being a magician is what happens behind the scenes, which is the creating magic, the practicing, the hanging out with other like-minded people, developing material. And I know that a lot of the people who are big supporters of the Toronto Magic Company, and I was going to say I assume it's the same with Discourse and Magic, but I know it is with Discourse and Magic. But a lot of people who are big supporters of the Toronto Magic Company and their shows are not magicians, but are people who have come to love magic and appreciate it from some standpoint. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of people who are regulars. And again, they've never wanted to learn tricks. They don't buy our courses. That is not their interest. They want to come. They want to be fooled. They want to laugh. They love that material. They want to be surprised and all that. And I think that they are interested in what happens behind the scenes, and knowing that people are interested and that them being able to see that allows them to be better supporters or feel more attached to what we're doing. And it's also a fun way for us to share and connect with people. To me, it feels like such a win. Like, if people feel like they get to be part of our lives and in some way we get to be part of theirs, and it builds these great communities, which is really what we're trying to do, but it lets us build communities with people anywhere in the world over time. If someone sees it in 4 years.
I'm also very proud of all of the things that we are producing. I don't mean the videos that we're producing. Slowly it'll get better and better, right? Yeah. Because we're getting there. But I'm saying
I made a face.
When I was but even still, when I first started posting things on YouTube, if you look at early Discourse and Magic YouTube stuff, it's screen recordings with audio. Because I lived in a shitty Toronto apartment, I didn't want to show what my life was, I didn't, even if I did a great gig or whatever, that was the coolest part of my life. And then going back to the crappy apartment that I was living in, my first Toronto apartment was not the thing that I wanted to broadcast to the world 5 years ago or whatever. Right. So it's really interesting now where we are doing virtual magic shows that I like doing. I have, the podcast, which I love. We take on projects that we love, and getting into YouTube is going to be bumpy, but I'm happy if someone sees the weird, strange, fun life I'm leading.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right now.
I think that, there are trade-offs to being a professional magician. There are risks associated. There are struggles, there are challenges, and there are perks. And one of the perks is, you get to sort of build the lifestyle you want to live. So if you want to stay up all night partying and that you want that to be your job, or you're going out to gigs and you could do it. If you're someone who wants to do corporate speaking during the day or kids shows during the day and you want to get weekends off to be with your family, you can do that, etc. So I know that one of the things I love about magic is that, and I will always appreciate, is that it's allowed me to live to some extent my ideal lifestyle. Like this is the ability to do the things I want. It's fun that I get to share that. And I've always felt that way, you know, even with my social media content on my personal stuff, I don't really worry so much about like my audience. And I'm just like, I want to share what's happening in my life in such a way that I can look back and it's like a time capsule. And also other people who look back and feel
that's the thing. That's the thing I keep thinking to myself is like, obviously one day we will grow old and we will no longer live together.
Right. What?
I think that day will come eventually sooner. You know, like it will come sooner than we think.
He's been reminding me of this because he thinks that I'm not ready for him to move out.
I think Ben is planning for a very long life of ours together, and I need to keep seeding that it's not the case. But anyways, there will come a time, and I will want to. You don't
want to move into my commune?
No, I will want to look back on.
This guy is so opposed to the idea. All I've suggested to him is that we get a giant mansion, and that we bring in a bunch of our friends, and all of our friends live in our mansion, or that we build separate houses.
Great. We'll build separate mansion houses. Anyways, this is such a unique moment in time where two full-time magicians who run a company are living together, creating magic together, problem solving together. You know, like you and I, even on our own internal magic projects, we like consult with each other on. And, you know, like we're two full-time magicians with unique backgrounds who are now working together. Like this may have never happened, you know, like,
it's unprecedented. The two magicians.
No, but I'm saying like this is, or maybe it's happened dozens of times or whatever the case may be, but this is quite a unique thing.
It's special.
Not everybody,
but it legitimately is special. I don't know if there are two other magicians. Like I don't know if Morgan and Wes live together. I doubt they do. You know, and
that's
like I also don't know. Like you know. Again, like throughout history, like this is during an unprecedented pandemic with a virtual response that we've never seen before. You know?
So yeah, there will come.
This has never happened and probably won't ever again. Like
there will come a time where this is over. But like one of the things that makes me think about YouTube is I'm just like, I have to make awesome videos when, you know, like I'm running a virtual company with another magician. We're living together. We have a cat. We dress as wizards to do stupid virtual shows. Like, this is crazy. I have to share this stuff. Like, this is crazy. So that's one of the things that motivates me.
It is crazy that like one day, hypothetically, you'll be an old man. Yeah. And you'll have grandkids. And your grandkids, let's say hypothetically, it's like a distant grandkid or like a second grandkid. I don't know how grandkids work.
Well, I'll like some of them much less. So those will be the distant
ones. But like they don't know much about you, and they're like, someone's like, "Oh, did you know Granddad was like a magician,
a YouTuber?"
And you're like, "A what?" And they click and they watch this video. They're like, "What the heck kind of life is crazy,
right?" So I feel silly, you know.
And then they'll say, "Why would he ever move out of living with that wonderful man in his commune?"
But I will.
They should have gotten chickens.
Oh my god!
They should have gotten chickens and raised bees together.
No, we shouldn't have. But the major point is that there's a few things that we've done that I already regret not documenting and sharing. And like, you know, the 2020 December was such a crazy moment in time. Yeah. Us doing 11 virtual shows a day that like I wish we had documented.
I think that's true with any successful action. We wish we had done it sooner.
Yeah. Well, I just mean documented it.
I wish we had too. I wish we had been documenting since the beginning of the formation. Like
for sure.
When we started before we launched our company, that would have been because who could have envisioned when we did it that like 4 or 5 years ago that we'd be sitting here because of that. You know, that initial action. Like initially, I know we've talked about it before, so I won't belabor it, but initially we were in the backyard of a crappy little, both of us were living in crappy little apartments.
You weren't even in the city. With my parents.
Yeah, you were with your city. Yeah. You know, that's right, taking the bus for hours in and out. And we were talking about what we could do to advertise a free open mic that didn't even have a pass the hat component. Mm-hmm. So it was literally just a free, like, should have started documenting from that moment.
Who would have known?
You know,
and really crazy. So, you know, we're starting here, and we'll see what else we can do.
And this will either be an interesting story about how our company pivots and becomes a virtual company, or how it goes back to doing live shows, or some combination of the two, or, you know, the adventure. Who knows? It's exciting.
So before we wrap up the lens of YouTube, you know, we spoke about the episode we did about our 2020 failures, which was super fun. We did a cardistry watching episode, which was cool. But one of the
we're going to do more, I think, of the reaction videos.
Yep.
And I think because I think like everything we're talking about, it's about sharing, and we want to share things that are interesting and to us, and sometimes that means sharing the content of others. So,
so we're going to do some of those, but the one piece that I'd love to talk about, because this is cool, because
the TikTok dance videos I want us to make.
No, this is cool because this is actually kind of a behind the scenes, but is the Tarbell Challenge. So if someone's listening to this right now, there's a video out on YouTube explaining what the Tarbell Challenge is, but this will be the first time that we actually maybe even long form talk about what
this is the kind of challenge, this is the kind of thing that is not a new idea by any stretch of the imagination. And it's something every magician I know has talked about, which is like, we want to learn some new magic. And they say, hey, how about we all find some way to incentivize each other to come up with a new trick each month or each week or whatever. And then someone goes, and we could put it online because it'll be fun. And then me and Jonah finally one day were like, that's a good idea. And we had a good parameter or way to do it where not just where we could develop magic, but also where people could connect and participate along with us as we learned. And that's the Tarbell Challenge. You want to tell them? You want me to tell them?
Well, no, that's basically it. So we've got the 8 Tarbell books, and each month Ben and I take a book and we each basically have to find a trick in it. And originally we said that it had to be a trick that you could do virtually, but we both kind of didn't really do that. It is interesting that we get a lot of inspiration potentially for what we can add to our virtual shows from those tricks, because there's some awesome things. But both of them are just tricks we did for each other because it was more fun and easier and just, better. But that's basically what the challenge was. But let's talk a little bit about
and what the challenge is, because by the time you hear this, it'll still be going on.
And you can still participate. Let's talk about the behind the scenes. So what was it like?
Well, the first thing is, again, just talking about coming up with the concept. We wanted to do something where we would be able to use this opportunity to develop our own magic. So there was sort of a selfish component, which is me and Jonah wanted to develop our magic. And then we also wanted a way that people could follow along. And so the Tarbell book series is something that a lot of magicians have access to. And if you have an internet, it's in public domain. So you can even download it for free. But it's often talked about as a book series, one of the most important book series in magic that contain the genesis for a lot of great ideas. And so we thought to ourselves, well, if everybody has access to it, including ourselves, and we've never really gone through it, and there's lots of good material, let's challenge ourselves. And so the idea changed a bunch of times. It started initially with a sort of inspired by Kenny versus Spenny, which was a Canadian TV show about two guys who lived together at a house, and they had weekly challenges, but there would be terrible punishments for one of them.
And it would also be rigged in the favor of one of them, would always be like messing with the other or something like that.
So that was the initial idea we were going to do. And then in the end, we just decided, like, we want to come up with tricks. We'll let people vote on who's better. We might have something we don't know yet, but really it's about the core concept is putting out the trick. So when you say talk about what you like.
I'd love to hear kind of behind the scenes about literally like in the first book, like what was something that you found?
The first thing I did going through the book is I immediately, even though I did read the sections, I cut out anything that sounded sort of pedestrian. So if it was like coin tricks, card tricks,
I cut out every card and coin trick.
I'm like, lame. No, I immediately went to the weird sections that were like fire, eggs, silks, and all the tricks that Jonah and I picked and played with, we found were non-card and coin items. Not that there's anything wrong with those. The next thing we did pretty quickly, both of us, was we modified the props, which didn't surprise me too much because the items used in the book the books were written like the 30s. Yeah. So some of the stuff is sort of felt dated, and also
like an egg and doing a trick with an egg and a silk. Just like if we really just like think about those two things for a second, just like think about them as like, eggs live in
so we started talking
silks.
We talked really quickly about items like having a cookie and a napkin. Yeah. Or what were other ones? Do you remember some of the other ones?
For that thing,
they were things that
I was doing it with a lemon and a lime and a cup, and we were talking about like
how do you justify the props, like having a little bit of milk in the cup and you finish the milk and then you take the cookie and you put it in the cup and cover it with the napkin that was there after you wipe your mouth, little things like that. So we very quickly changed the props. In my case, I guess it's a pretty big change. I changed it from a cloth handkerchief to a cloth t-shirt because it was a torn and restored handkerchief. Then I was like, why don't I just light someone's shirt on fire and restore it? That's way more
and it kind of reminds me of like
Don't try that at
of
home,
the
kids.
trick where you put your finger through someone's shirt.
Right.
But it's like way better.
Yeah, way better.
And it's crazy that no one's ever thought of it, Or
I mean,
maybe they have.
I learned it from someone, so.
Oh, you did?
I didn't come up with it. Any good idea I ever have, I didn't come up with.
You didn't come up with it?
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the finger
shirt? No, the shirt burn. Yeah.
Oh, the shirt burn. Oh, I mean, yeah, I came up with that, but like, I'm sure other people, like,
right,
I haven't seen
Did someone say to you, like, I do this with this trick?
No, not with this. But I took it. So the inspiration I used for it was Peter Samuelson. So Peter Samuelson had the burnt napkin.
Well, the napkin still.
Yeah.
Right. So I think with the shirt, it's surprising to me that I haven't seen that in the wild. Like
maybe
it's the same...
if you are someone who knows of anyone who has done a burnt,
the burnt napkin.
You know what? The closest thing I can think of that maybe did inspire it.
I can think of is the finger through the shirt.
I was thinking the cigarette, where you take the cigarette and you put the cigarette into someone's shirt with the thumb tip. You put a hole. You can't see, but I'm miming pushing into a t-shirt and loading a thumb tip and then taking the cigarette and then making it, because that's
cool.
pretty crazy shirt.
Yeah.
That's a crazy
also
trick.
Cool, but interesting. That's really cool. Yeah. And I ended up with...
And also inspiration comes from, and this is a true story, one time while I was in the browsers then with Chris Mayhew, I accidentally set Chris Mayhew's entire shirt on fire. And then the owner of the store, Jeff Pinsky, came running out yelling at me that I wasn't allowed to burn people alive in his store.
You're not allowed to burn people.
That was...
You're not allowed to burn people in the store.
That is true. That is a new policy. One of many policies that were enacted because of a Ben Train stupidity.
The thing that I ended up on was, first I started with doing a lemon and lime and a cup with a silk, which was still pretty weird, but
I like that one.
It's a cool trick. What excited me about it is it was a trick with, I could literally do it with a napkin, a cup, and two objects.
Do you want to describe for the listeners what the effect was?
You put a lemon in a cup, and you cover the cup with the silk, and then you pick up the lime. The lime now turns into a lemon, and now you take the silk off the cup, and now inside of it is the lemon. Whichever they transpose. The other one. Yeah, they transpose.
And it's impromptu, and it's
impromptu, no other items. Those are all the items in it. So it was really fun to practice. I have probably an hour's worth of recording footage of me practicing it. And yet still, it wasn't good enough. The other trick, I played with a hat one, but not terribly.
It's funny, that was the trick. We both played with 3 tricks. And both of ours, we played with 2 serious tricks. And then we had the paper tear, the hat trick.
Yeah. So I tried to do the paper tear, which is a trick where you rip up some pieces of tissue paper and then put it together in a hat and put it on. And I thought it would be a funny trick to put on you.
Exactly. Right? So we both were going to do it. You rip it up and you make a stupid looking hat, put it on the other person, and then make fun of them and slap them around a little.
So that was what I was going to do. Part. But I ended up doing, there's a trick in there, and many of you may know it.
If you haven't read Tarbell and you don't know the trick, take part of the Tarbell challenge.
It's a big section about kind of this.
If all of the tricks we're talking about right now don't sound very familiar to you, then it means you need to reread your Tarbells.
For sure.
Join the challenge.
For sure. So this one was a trick where you take an orange and you take some string and you put the string through the middle of the orange, 2 strands, you tie them, and then you pull and you go right through the orange, and the orange stays with just one hole through the center. It doesn't rip, and the strings are whole as well. So it's a pretty magical trick. You penetrate through the orange.
It's a super weird trick, but it's also, if they buy into the procedure, then it is freaking possible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. If the procedure is convincing, then there is which is a cool thing for a virtual trick, is that someone could rewatch it over and over, and every time.
And that was what I thought about that trick. Is I was just like, the rewatchability of that trick. If you're not sure. If you don't know that, it hinges on a secret, but if you don't, a trick. Yeah, but I like when they hinge on more than one, but that's all right.
It sort of has layered methods because there's an initial thing that they don't know about, but then there's also, you tie the knot around it, which is a second layer of deception, and then there's you throw in some convincers.
There is more, but anyways, I did end up going with that, and I couldn't find a pin long enough to go through an orange, which I did, or what string.
Normally, we would have gone to the most magical place in the world, which is Fabricland,
which
but
is
it's
beside our local magic store, which
closed
is so
because of the
convenient.
pandemic. But the needles that were long enough to go through an orange didn't have a slit big enough to put a string thick enough to hold while it was through an orange. So I
could have
couldn't-
made that for you.
No, it wasn't working. So I couldn't figure that out. So I ended up doing it with a pepper. What was the type of pepper? I forget.
You used I believe a habanero.
No, it wasn't
No,
a
a
habanero.
Scotch bonnet.
Scotch bonnet. And what was so fun about it is immediately when I thought of, I was trying to think of what presentation it was, and Scotch bonnet peppers, it ended up being really easy because it was like I had hot peppers. I had, there was a lot to
There's
play
something
with.
very
like,
masochistic about having like habaneros, sewing needles, like, and then the rope you used was the one we had in our house, but it was like an aged twine-ish type thing. So like the whole thing felt like a little scary.
Oh, no, it was ribbon. I used a ribbon.
Oh, you did use the black ribbon.
yeah.
You used black ribbon.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Black ribbon. Yeah. So it had this sort of scary sort of like.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. Like, it was a fun challenge. We are now into book 2, but I just wanted to share a little bit of behind the scenes. Maybe you didn't know we were working on the Tarbell Challenge. If you want to join us, come join us. If by this time, probably next week or the week after, Tarbell 1 will be out, and you'll get to see the finished products that Ben and I are talking about.
And one of the things, with these projects, when we talk about finished projects and our fears and how this all ties together, it's like it is scary sharing material.
This is
sometimes.
the scariest
We talked about
project.
like we're talking about how positive it is and like that it is fun to share, but like we're also sharing this during a pandemic where we can't get haircuts. We gained weight. We haven't gotten new clothes.
I look good.
You do look good. I gained weight. And also like the magic that we're sharing is stuff that we're still developing and haven't practiced.
We worked
We're
on
new premises. We're building props at home, and like
And
we're
part
also
of- and to
sharing
be
our
honest,
personal lives.
Part of the
It's scary.
reason why we're doing this with each other and not as a virtual trick is because the trick is not human being performance ready after selecting it amongst 3 and down to 1 and down to the wire and whatever. It's ready enough to be shot.
As soon as we shot the trick that we used, like we decided to do a one take, like actual performance of us doing our tricks for the Tarbell, which we should probably mention in the video. I don't know if we mentioned anywhere, like put a little whatever. But we decided not to retake it. And I'll be honest, as soon as we'd finished it, I was like, oh, there's so many things.
A million.
And most of it for me was presentational because I was playing with just like the method and the blocking a little bit. And then afterwards, Jonah, usually he's the one who comes out with less of a developed premise and I talk too much. But he came out with like this actual premise and I was sort of like, oh man, I didn't say anything really. And I'm like, darn it, I should have used that moment to.
And I felt the opposite way. I felt like the trick was really, really zany, and I felt like my premise was really long, so I had to talk my way out of it. And so very, very interesting. Would love to know what you guys think, and if you guys are want to be a part of it, that would be super exciting. Next thing I want to chat about is the unconventional pass.
Oh yeah,
we didn't get a chance to talk about this because the last episode we put out together was the Failures 2020. So I honestly don't know what has been announced. I guess this has been because the last episode that came out with.
If anybody, I mean this sincerely, if anybody is listening to this podcast still, like at this point, then it is inexplicable to me that they wouldn't get a ticket to Magic Land, especially the season pass. And I'll tell them, for those who don't know, very quickly, because I know we've talked about it before, right?
You know what? I don't know if we've talked about the season pass on this because I think
Magic Land, so Magic Land is an extension of our unconventional.fun conventions. It's a virtual 8-bit magic convention. It has grown. We've done 2 events. This is the 3rd one coming up in May. This one has now grown to a 2-day event. There's like 30 people on the lineup. There is tons of different events, panel discussions, lectures, shows, you name it. We've built a virtual 8-bit world that is themed like a magic amusement park that you can explore. And this time, what's different from the previous experience is, number one, we've revamped the whole world, so it looks different, it operates different than the past Magic Land. We have all sorts of new surprises, and also we're about to announce that there's a way to play Magic Land. And if we haven't announced it yet, there's a way to play Magic Land as an actual game where you can win prizes. So you can attend the lectures, jam with people, hang out, like it's going to be amazing. And the Magic Land Season Pass is we are doing not 1, not 2, but 3 more events in this calendar year, 2021. And the Season Pass gives you access to all 3 of the events at a discounted rate
and you get exclusive bonuses.
Yeah. So anyways, it's really exciting. And let's maybe talk a little bit behind the scenes about Magic Land. This is something, again, talking about innovation, talking about, this year that's been really strange, virtual magic shows. That's something that, we were a part of. Certainly we didn't invent, but we invented for ourselves as people requested from us. We weren't asking what everyone was doing for their virtual magic show. We were just like, okay, well, let's just do some tricks, right? Like that was the way we figured it out. But lots of other people did virtual magic shows. Virtual magic conventions where you can mingle around and do a world. That's something we've never done before. We now, by the end of 2021, we will have done 5 of them. Right now, we are about to do our 3rd.
And it is cool to be like you said, we weren't we were sort of on the forefront of virtual shows.
We were,
we adapted.
But there can only
April.
be so many,
Yeah. But like,
I don't want to give anyone the credit for being the first virtual magic show.
It was, and not that I'm looking for credit to be the first. Not that matters, but like, I think a lot of people went virtual, and I think it was a logical thing. I think this was something that we thought was a risk that we were going to do at one time and then move on to something else. And what we've done with it has been pretty incredible. And what really excites me is not only were we sort of the first to sort of do this, but we've been contacted by a few people now who like the idea enough that they've asked for permission to do it, or they've taken inspiration and done it. And also we've done stuff where even the initial developers of these programs have told us, they come to us going like, wow, you did something that like we didn't think other people haven't done before, or they haven't done this thing. So it's
we're
cool
using the platform uniquely.
Yeah.
We're working with magicians, doing a virtual convention. We've got a game at a convention, which I think is, somewhat unique. I'm sure some iterations of
there's
it
never been a magic convention like this. There just hasn't been.
It's true.
Not with this not the way we're doing it virtually, not the way we've integrated with the world, not the playability feature, not the jamming, and it is cool. And also it's cool to be doing something that isn't just sort of feeling new and innovative. And I say that as someone who's been in the magic community for 25 plus years, and I don't want to say jaded, but I've seen a lot. I've seen enough of the stuff that like it's hard for me to get really excited about something innovative. And this feels like it is, because it's not just new for new's sake. It is something that really serves a valuable purpose, that like it is a way to connect with people in a way that is meaningful and real. It is a way to do it in a way that wasn't available beforehand. Like you could come hang out with these legendary people without having to fly, but you can still see them face to face, and you can still jam on tricks.
The thing is it's like, something. It's an epic way to connect with magicians, and
it's crazy.
It's not watching a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live. It's not a Facebook group. It's not liking Facebook pages. It's not a Clubhouse. It's not TikTok. This is you legitimately communicating with magicians somewhere else in the world. It's not the same as hanging out in person, but you can now connect with people everywhere in the world, the best magicians. Like it's amazing,
it has so many of the features that make, obviously, again, there's trade-offs, there's pros, there's cons, but there's also, there are so many of the positive things that you get at an in-person event. When you come to our virtual convention, you have an avatar, you log in, and you can explore. Just like at a real convention, that's important to me. I sneak away from, sometimes I want to go to a convention, a lecture. Sometimes I want to hang out in in the dealer's room. Sometimes I want to go jam with some of my friends. Sometimes I want to take a break and explore the city, sauna or the city or whatever. And like, you know what? At our convention, you can go and watch the lecture, or you can jam with people, or you could play the game. Like you can do these things. I don't know. I know it sounds like this is a really hard sell for it, but I am genuinely excited by it, because I continue to hear from people who are trying it and using it and are enjoying it. And I am attending it and I am enjoying it.
After the last convention, the number of people that like asked us to do it again is the reason why we're doing it again. And like,
I legit cried. I had like a little mini panic attack at the end of the last one, because there was something that went wrong, and there was some stuff that I was like trying to deal with on the back end, and I was like panicking. I didn't want the event to not be a success, and I was overwhelmed by the positivity, and I was overwhelmed by the stuff. And I think what we're doing this time is really cool, and I like it. I dig it.
Super pumped.
You should come. If you don't know what we're talking about yet, unconventional.fun is the URL. So type that in, unconventional.fun. Look up Magic Land. It is for less than the cost of one in-person convention normally. You get 3. You get 3, and that's 6 days worth of magic, plus you get the recordings. It's no-brainer
stuff. Love it. Last thing to chat about is virtual fears. In the last few weeks of this podcast, I put in an episode with Harrison. I did a lecture for people on the Discourse in Magic newsletter about, things pivoting towards in person. Harrison feels like there's going to be more virtual. We have had the conversation kind of countless times about how things return. I can tell you as somebody who coaches, 50, 60 magicians right now, like it is happening. Different people in different places, things are switching back to in person. How do you feel about it? What's your take on the return to in person?
I mean, I'm scared. I'm one of the things that we talked about at the beginning of the video is sort of the lifestyle and how much we enjoy it and how important it is to us. And virtual shows have allowed us to do that more than like grinding. Like if we did 300 shows this year and they were all in person, like we have to go there, we have to drive.
We would have been devastated.
Yeah, like some of the days, and some of those days were like 14 show days and stuff that like we just couldn't do. And like those grinding days, like 14 shows in a day in December, and we weren't destroyed afterwards.
No.
Like that's
I slept we like tired. A baby.
We ordered food in, we watched some TV, then we went to bed. Like we watched a movie, we celebrated a little bit. We did it is like that is how I would have felt if I had done 5 in-person shows. Like that would have been like you come back and it's like that
3
is crazy.
Or 4 even.
Like, 3 or 4 is a lot. Like we would still, but I'm saying like 5 would have been like unimaginable, big. And I think we did even more than 14 in one day. I think we did like a 16 show day or something crazy. But like I also I enjoy the format of virtual shows. I enjoy the opportunities. I enjoy the fees. I enjoy the convenience. I enjoy the creative sort of freedom I feel doing them. And so like I am nervous. I'm excited and nervous about in-person shows. I want to do everything in my power to keep virtual shows as a revenue stream and as a viable opportunity and product for us. Part of my fear is that we don't maximize our opportunity. And like, that's the fear we always have where it's like, it's like someone, your father's birthday and you get a gig call and you're like, should I go to my father's birthday? We had that when we did David Buster's, it was every Friday and Saturday night. And that meant we did that for like 2.5, 3 years, something like that. Like,
you sacrificed every
friend's birthdays were Friday and Saturday nights. That's what people do. So like we missed every party. We missed Halloween's. We missed. So like virtual shows, that didn't happen. And obviously part of
But it's also because there was no events happening.
There were no events. But I mean like when people come, I think that like my dream is that it's all the virtual daytime events we were doing, which is the vast majority, I feel like, of our virtual shows. No, am I wrong?
Yeah, most of our virtual shows happen from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
The good ones,
Monday to Friday.
The corporate ones are during the corporate
Monday
hours.
To Friday, 9 a.m.
So like,
9 to 6
if you tell me
Friday.
that most of my evenings are free to do whatever I want, whether that's live or whatever, and both you and I have talked about, we want to change the way we do shows from we're going to hustle and grind every day to do every kid show we can do and every gig. Again, because that FOMO, you don't want to miss out on opportunities because one day someone might not pay you $500 for a show. So you'd say, I'll do it. But now I think we want to focus on better quality shows, higher fees that let us do more exciting things. And when we do the in-person stuff, the focus is on the big Toronto Magic Company events, things that generate revenue, that help our brands, but also put on incredible events. And we can focus 2 or 3 months on this, putting together one amazing event rather than spending, and that's still work time. Us sitting on our patio talking for 3 straight hours with our notebook out about what we want to do is work. But that's a different kind of work than driving back and forth to every show.
For me, I think that I am ridiculously excited about events. I love virtual magic shows, and I like in-person shows because some of them are not great. In-person shows, like about 60% of the time, it's not a pleasurable environment to be booked, like gigging. Like it's just not a fun thing to be. Maybe my mindset is wrong. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what it is, but like there's people talking down to me like I'm the talent.
There are ways that there are ways that both of us can enjoy those experiences. But the fact that we have to actively like implement strategies to enjoy them, like I remember Dave and Buster's or some of the gigs you're talking about, corporate events where you show up at a banquet hall and you have to, and I sit there thinking to myself, like, remember, Ben, you don't have to be here. You get to be here. Like that was a mantra.
No, but the thing is again, it's good. Like it's a fun show. It's fun to perform. Don't get me wrong. It's just that not every gig is the awesome, fun corporate gig that feels good. You got great space in advance to do your stuff. Some of them are a lot of them are weird environments. And I think that as you charge more, those weird environments vanish, which is one really big role. And I think that even though I was turning down a lot of small gigs pre-pandemic, I was still accepting weird environment gigs, like if they'll pay my fee, then I would accept the gig, versus here, all of the virtual gigs look exactly the same. So that's something. But I think in keeping in mind what it is that I
mean,
like,
that's not totally true.
No, I know, but more than in person, right?
Yes.
And
more uniform,
yeah,
for sure.
And in thinking about the future, for me, there's a few things I know. The first is I want to do more and more and more entertaining and helping and coaching and teaching and community building, whatever, to my camera, to people on the internet. To me, that has been incredibly rewarding. Not that working with people or performing for people in person has not been, but this ability to do everything on the internet has just been amazing. And I really would love to continue that. Events is something that I love. In person, they're phenomenal. Yeah, online, they're phenomenal. I love events. I'm going to continue doing events. Gigging, I've spoken about it on the podcast at like all of the year-end episodes that, we sometimes put out, and gigging, I'm like, yeah, I like it some of the time. Yeah. 40% of them are fun and 60% of them are whack. And maybe just trying to turn those down and pricing myself out of that market is something I can do, which is totally fine. It's something I could do. It just is not,
and maybe it's a byproduct. I don't know. For me, like I am not a party animal. So first of all, the idea of me going to like let's say I'm doing a close up and strolling, and I get exactly booked to be like the penthouse of like this beautiful place, and there's 200 people crammed in, and everyone's in these beautiful suits, and I'm showing up dressed to the nines in my nice outfits and all my stuff, and and I'm up there, I'm like, I don't want to be at this thing. I want to be like at a backyard party.
I was just thinking,
at a barbecue with 6 of my friends, quietly listening to some music. So like that.
I was just thinking when the host says like, feel free to like eat hors d'oeuvres and stay and drink and mingle. And I'm like, what? I'm going to mingle with
so exciting.
With
I could stay for another 3 hours dressed up in this monkey suit, eating, drinking, like, and don't get me wrong. There was a time in my life where I was like, wow, that's a $400 Scotch bottle. Like, yeah, I'll take a little bit of that. Like, steak filet, I can't even say the word filet mignon. Like, whoa, wicked. Like, I want to go home. I love being in my house. I have a cat. I have plants. Like I'm an old man at heart. So like that type of.
I'm not as old of a man as you. Like,
but also like
to me that event is like, that event as described is fun. But I certainly wouldn't stay an extra 3 hours. And also like the.
Yeah, I guess that one was 2 hours. The one I just described is like the best case scenario. That one I was describing, it's getting better and better.
Yeah, that's a great event. Dude. I'm missing out on that.
Okay, but a lot of times you go there and it's not fun. You're the help. And you're like, you're like walking around, and the like event planners just like go over there, and the people you're a nuisance to, and you just want to get the heck out of town. And like, there's 3 hours remaining, and there's like, there's 1,600 people at this winter carnival.
You're in a giant room meant for 1,000 people that has 180 in it, and they've been cycling in and out. You've done magic for the 19
There's a juggler, there's a stilt walker, there's acrobats, a violinist, and you're the magician, and you're one like, and just like or you go to do the corporate thing, and there's a dance hall between you and the thing, and they give you a bad intro, and like just like there's so many games where you don't have that problem, not the same way, because no matter how bad a virtual show is or a virtual event, I'm in my house. Probably in my sweatpants. I can look to my left, and my cat is sleeping on my couch.
No, but it looks the same. It feels the same, and certainly
I feel comfortable.
And certainly,
I feel my element.
One thing that really makes it feel different is like this: in an in-person show gig, I am in their world, and in a virtual gig,
you're in your element.
Are in my world. I am in my house. Muting and unmuting people, running a show, telling people how things work. And in person, until I walk in that front door and know how things work, and until they introduce me and I'm on that stage, I am like, yes, what can I do for you? When should I go? And you need me to wait an extra 30 minutes? Absolutely. Where's the thing?
And people talk about the struggles engaging and connecting with people virtually versus in person. And yes, it is absolutely true that, in many regards, it's easier, or at least it's
easier to connect in person.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it's also easier to get lost in person. Like the one person who's talking and distracting the audience is a non-issue in virtual. Yeah. And what's cool is like anybody who wants to pay attention is like, they have your full attention. Yeah. Like you're staring right at them.
And really in virtual, you really have to pay attention to the camera, and you can offshoot to anything else. But in a live show, you do have to kind of connect with every person
I can
there.
connect to the entire audience instantly by looking at my camera, versus it is impossible for me to connect directly with each person in my audience if there's 300 and 400 people in all of a room. What
do you feel about in person? I know I'm feeling like I love events. Some gigs I like, some gigs I don't like.
We come back to this, like, I like to ask Jonah these annoying questions where I say, like, imagine somebody with X amount of money came in and offered you to do X. Would you do it? And they're always like really stupid things, like, would you be transformed into an octopus for, and he's like, leave me alone. But this is a real serious, like, pragmatic version of that question, which is when live shows come back and someone offers you $1,000 to do a 35-minute stand-up in their house, do you take it? What if it's $500?
Right,
what
now
if it's $300? What if it's $2,000? Like,
right.
Do you go back to doing gigs? Do you go back to do, like,
the reality is
right
now for me, I have no problem turning down a couple $100 to do card tricks. I do have a problem turning down a couple $1,000.
Yeah, for sure. Let's say it's $500. You turn it down?
Yeah.
$1,000?
No. And that's and that's literally like, and we don't need, like, I'm sure there's a number in there we can find, but like in reality, if someone's like, hey, I live an hour away, of $1,000 for you to come mingle around for an hour and do card tricks.
Sure. We have in our neighborhood, we have people who have hired us for shows that I've walked to that are a 10-minute walk from our house. So when someone's like, I'll give you, I'm like, I don't want to do this, and then this in person. And they're like, I'll give you $2,000. It's 50-minute walk from your house. And it's a summer day.
But then it's a bunch of annoying 12-year-olds who are yelling at you. It's a nightmare.
That was my worst show.
I know.
That was my worst show in years. It's still a nightmare I think about.
But it's funny where, like, we think on one hand, we're like, okay, someone wants to pay me $2,000 to do the one and only thing that I've literally been rehearsing to do for the last 20 years. In what insane world can I turn it down because the conditions are going to be not fun
number you
and
want.
Favorable, whatever it is, right? Yeah. Like, but you're like, how could I turn it down because the conditions are going to be not fun or not favorable? But then also, literally, that show made you not sleep for weeks, like, or whatever, like also, whatever negative toll
and also
it took.
Success. We're talking about the failure of that show, but like success also holds a toll, which is like you get a gig and it's like, okay, it's $1,000. You take it? It's like, yes, I would take that gig. You're great. You took that one gig, but now another call came in. Do you take that gig? Yeah, I take that gig. And then another call comes in, and next thing you know, you're doing 8 gigs a week, which is a great success. You're making lots of money. Every single night is now booked up. You're busy every single day because you're going to prepare.
Like, crap, I got to raise my rates.
You can't make your YouTube content that you were enjoying.
Yeah.
You don't have the same time to do the virtual programming you wanted to do because now you're driving to and from shows. So it's like there's opportunity costs. Yeah. And then it's like, do I turn it down? What do I do?
Right. And I think for me, like, as somebody who has been able to earn money serving others, in many ways, to be able to earn money gigging, virtual in person, and has been able to earn money putting on events. Like, all 3 of those things have put food on the table for me. And like the ones I like best are serving others and putting on events.
And the fear is that opportunity might vanish or disappear.
I'm not so worried that I'm not going to be able to serve others. I'm not so worried that I'm not going to be able to
change the way you do it. Maybe
it will. The thing I'm worried about is that, like you just said, when push comes to shove, I still, despite everything I just said, don't see myself turning down $1,000 booking to do card tricks for an hour.
Right, it's very
magic
tricky
for an hour.
I just think
maybe
about it,
maybe when I have 30 of those a month, but like there's a certain number of gigs that come in a month. 20.
Well, we're working
10.
We're working towards doing that in some capacity. The question is whether it's sustainable with having a company that pays us a salary. I know that you think very differently about money than I do. I don't like money. I don't want to think about it ever. My dream situation is just never to have to think about it. I don't care about being rich. I just don't want to think about it. And so, like, if I have a salary where I don't worry about, like, I do the gigs, right? The gigs come in and we decide which gigs we're doing. And as long as the company's making money, the question is, like, do we turn down, can our company pay us if we're turning down those gigs? Like,
yeah, it doesn't need to be that complicated, just literally in the simplicity of doing the gigs, right? Like for an individual. But yeah,
I just mean, but if I'm on salary and I'm living, if my salary is paying me enough that I can live the life I want and can afford to live it that way, then I'm less worried about, do I take the $1,000 gig for card tricks because I can wait and I can.
So let's ask a what if. So if you could make a full-time income not gigging, would you?
It depends what that is the option. I make a full-time living by doing the virtual programming and
events.
Yeah. Then I would do not gigging. And what I would do with the gigging is the same way that I have done gigs where I've made $0. Like when I did the Chicago Magic Lounge, I ended up net zero.
But it was like epic.
I would do it in a heartbeat.
Right.
You know, if you tell me that I have to go to the Magic Castle, do I want to do a full week there and make no money? Like, that doesn't sound super fun to me, especially if I don't have time to enjoy any of it. Would I go for a weekend and make no money performing at the castle? You darn right I would, right? Like, and then that's sure. So like, if someone calls me and they're like, Ben, we want you to be part of a convention lineup and perform, would I do that? Even if I don't really make much money? Yes. If someone calls me to make lots of money for an interesting gig, would I do it? Yes. But if it's like, again, there's a number for everybody. Would I do a gig if it's $5,000 or $10,000? Yes, but that now ceases to be so much about the money. And it's like, for me, that would be such a unique opportunity. Nobody is calling me for a $10,000 gig right now. So if somebody does, that is a unique opportunity that I say like, yes, I'm in for that. The same way if someone's like, would you let me fly you to Australia, but I won't pay you to do a show? I'd say, yes. Sure. Like, you know.
Now everyone knows how to get Ben to do things.
Man, you live in Australia. You want to fly me and put me up for a few days? I'll sleep in your house. Fly me to Australia, put me up for a few days, buy me some dinners. I'll do a show for you. Right now, as soon as the pandemic's over. Done.
I love it. Well, this has been super fun. I think a little behind the scenes about what we're thinking and what we're feeling. And I think it has been a really interesting transition going to virtual. And I think we are in the road of seeing how it comes back or doesn't. And I have no idea. You know, it seems to me the people that were doing virtual shows are still doing virtual shows. The people that were not doing virtual shows are starting to do live shows. Some people that were doing virtual shows are also starting to do live shows, but certainly the people I know that are seriously doing virtual shows are still
the people who treated it like it's a business and a priority are going to do it.
Are still doing it for a long time.
We look at, or rather you do more than I do for sure, but the analytics of, you know, where leads are coming in from, where we're booking events from, what's happening. And part of what we do with the testing of ads is that we run ads against each other. We test to see what's working. We turn off things that aren't and aren't. And so, you know, I assume a lot of people do that too. If you focused on building up a certain type of business, and then you say, okay, well, this is leading to some success, this avenue isn't, you continue pivoting and shifting to make that thing succeed. So yeah, I don't think virtual is disappearing. The question right now is, does it increase? Does it pivot? And like a lot of people are saying like, oh, obviously live shows are coming back, so it's going to drop off.
We don't know.
Or live events come back, people show that there's a resistance to wanting to doing them. So all these companies that were holding out because they were like, soon in person come back, go, wow, now this really is viable. There's an explosion in new infrastructure and stuff, like, who knows?
Yeah.
All sorts of things.
Well, there you have it. I hope you liked the episode, and I hope, of course, that you learned something. 2 quick things. Number 1, I know you're probably not by your computer, but if you are by your computer, then go take 35 seconds and check us out on YouTube and hit subscribe. It means the world. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and you can check out some of the cool magic videos that we got going on. That's number 1. Don't forget to check out the Tarbell Challenge. And number 2 is if you're currently doing virtual magic and you need some help growing your virtual magic business, then you can let me know and I might be able to help. You can find me on Facebook, send me a message with the word upgrade and I'll get you some information. You can find me on Instagram, same thing. You can send an email to info@discourseinmagic.com. Other than that, thanks for being here and I'll see you next Thursday.